Are you running your travel business like the CEO you are and being as profitable as possible? Let's get real about the difference between having a hobby and being a business owner. I'm Brianna, the owner of Milk and Honey Travels, and this is a podcast for us, by us, where we have deep conversations with honest answers. Nothing is off limits here. Thank you for being here, and let's dive in. So today, I'm super excited to chat with Sandy Saburn, who has been on the podcast before, but this is the first time I've had the opportunity to speak with you. So welcome to the Masters of Travel podcast.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be back.
Yeah. So Sandy, you're the Chief Membership Officer at Gifted Travel Network, which is a rapidly growing and innovative host agency in the travel industry. And you have played a pivotal role in leading GTN to its current success due to your strong background in strategic planning and operational skills. And I'm not sure if you know this, I used to actually be part of GTN early in my career. And that was before I went a bit rogue and started operating independently. But I can vouch for the idea that this is a host agency that really is forward thinking in their approach to guiding advisors in their career and really offering an incredible amount of support in the entrepreneurial journey, which I think is so important. And quite honestly, maybe missing in a lot of different ways that like we find the support we're looking for, especially when we're new, but even further on in our career. And I think what GTN does is kind of meet advisors where they're at the different stages. So whether you are new or you're more advanced and you're looking to scale and you just kind of like, or just like the community aspect. So you guys are doing a lot of great things there, which I think is amazing. And I love the opportunity to just be able to chat with you and hear your perspective because you also have a front row seat into the goings on, right? Behind the doors, behind the scenes of so many travel advisors' journeys, which is really, really cool too. So again, thank you for being here. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
I'm excited too, and it's one of my favorite topics. Having been in the travel industry for more than 20 years and these last 7 years with Gifted Travel Network, just being able to see so many people and help guide so many people through the vision of creating a business that is a business. This is not a hobby,
Mm-hmm.
a side hustle. There's certainly people out there who do it that way, but the people that are affiliated with GTN really want to focus on the business, making it a success,
Right.
and having freedom and financial success and fulfillment through their business.
Yeah, and I think the idea that this is a great vehicle that we can kind of like marry our passion and our desire to own our own business and all of those things, it works well. The problem that sometimes happens is, number one, we didn't, like most of us, go to school and study this in school, right? Like this is not something that a lot of us knew we wanted to do, or it's maybe our second, third career, etc. And this is not something that we did in our previous career. So a lot of us, this is new skills that we have to learn. And then there's also this idea that there is that super low barrier to entry, meaning that you could just wake up one day and say, hey, I'd like to have a travel business, do a couple things, join a couple things, and there you go. But that compared to success and to seeing, like you said, financial success, being able to be profitable, being able to scale, all of those things, there's so much more that kind of goes into that. And so I'm excited to kind of chat with you about that today. I think that this episode in particular, for those that are new, is going to be very, very important because it gets you in the right mindset for understanding how to think about this. But also for advisors further on in their career, I'm always of the mindset that there's always more to learn. And so I hope that for them, it really is just an opportunity to kind of take something away from this conversation that keeps you on the path to success and helps you get there even faster. So love, love, love this. Okay. So you mentioned this as well. Is this a business or a hobby for you? Now, this might ruffle some feathers, but I've seen a lot of things on social media lately from different agencies and different people kind of promoting this career choice. And it easily can seem like it can just literally be something you do like when you're watching Real Housewives at night, when you got a couple spare hours. And so why not just launch this travel career and book all these luxury hotels for your friends and family since you're doing it anyway? Like, let's talk about how detrimental that can be for people to think that this is really just something you can do as a side hobby or a side hustle or a hobby, because I have not found that to be the case at all in terms of like how I've seen success.
And then I don't think you can have real success doing it as a hobby. Certainly, you can book your travel, book your friends' travel, the way that some of these agencies out there now are promoting it. But it is detrimental to the industry as a whole that there is such a low barrier to entry. And exactly as you said, that you could wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to be a travel agent today. And by lunchtime, you're a travel agent.
That's it.
And that
Yeah.
does not do any favors at all to the industry. And I don't know how to fix that because it brings down the entire industry when you have that perception that this is not a real job and a real career and that you can't make money at it. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's it's very easy to think that you'll just hop into something and it will just run itself, or you'll just set up a website and people will buy travel from you. And it doesn't work like that. As you well know, travel is a lot of work and there's a lot you have to learn. And there's really two different things you have to learn. You have to learn travel, but you also have to learn how to run a business. And as you said before,
Exactly.
many of the people who come into this industry come into it from another career, and maybe they've been very
Mhm.
successful in their previous career. We see this a lot with people coming into our travel MBA program. They've been very successful on Wall Street or as doctors or lawyers or sales reps or whatever, and they've made money and they're wanting to do something that they're passionate about now.
Right.
And so
Right.
they start pursuing this and they do it the right way, and they can still put six figures in their pocket every year and have a life they love without burning the midnight oil as you may have to do in other careers. And I
Right.
just think we owe it to ourselves as travel industry professionals to do everything we can to raise the bar and make sure that people know that when you work with a travel advisor, you need to find somebody who does this professionally, not as a
Right.
hobby.
Right, exactly. I think most of us were probably like, when we started, we were that person in our friend group or our family who put together the yearly trip, or, who
Right.
was the go to person for like suggestions on what to do in Santorini, whatever the case may be. But you quickly learn that that is such a different ball game than what goes on behind the scenes of truly be able to do this as a career, but also in a scalable way. Because what you spent, weeks and weeks doing for the one trip for your family vacation, how are you going to do that 100 times over, right? Like with just you. So there's so much that goes into being able to do it on as a business owner, but also, like you said, all of the other hats you need to wear, because the travel planning and the fun part, so to speak, is like this little part of it, and then there's the 27 other hats that you have to kind of like figure out how to fit on your head and do that well. And especially, at least until you get to a point where, yes, maybe you do bring on support or help or whatever, but at the beginning, we're doing it all, right? And you have to be able to kind of like learn how to do all of those things, at least well enough to kind of like get your business off the ground and get the ball rolling. And then also, the reason why it takes you really knowing what you're doing is because if people have that first initial experience with you and it doesn't go well and you don't know what you're doing, you burn bridges. And the biggest way to see success is to have that repeat and referral business. And so when you're treating it like a hobby and you have this in your hand, people's most precious, valuable experiences, and you don't treat it well, they are not going to come back to you. They are not going to refer you, and your business can't grow. That's going to be and that's kind of like what you were saying, is like giving us a bad name, because if people do have that experience with their travel agent and then they're like, well, this was complete waste. It didn't help me at all. I don't see the value here. What are you doing? And that kind of just hurts everybody, right?
Exactly. And a lot of people think that the travel advisor is just about making the booking. And a lot of people who get into this and do it as a hobby, they perpetuate that. But it's not, it's about so much more than the booking. It's about helping clients make decisions about the trip that's going to meet their needs. And it's about having connections in the industry to be able to get them what they want and to VIP them where they're going and just solve problems if there are problems. If there's one thing that we learned in the pandemic is that if when something goes wrong, you want a real human being that you can reach out to to get help from. And a lot of people who spent hours and hours on the phone to online booking engines or to other places where they'd book travel and waiting on somebody quickly found out the value of having somebody who could help. And you're right when you said earlier that a lot of people start out having done this for their friends and family. They are the go-to for that because people know they're organized, they can put things together, they know a lot about travel, they're just interested in that. So they reach out to you and then you spend 30 hours planning the trip because you love it, but that's not a sustainable business model unless you want to make $2 an hour.
Right,
It's
right.
not sustainable.
No, and I hope there's nobody who's looking to make $2 an hour. Of course, it's the long game. Of course, when you start, I always tell people that as well. Like, listen, either have a really, really nice savings account or be living at home because for the first little while, it's gonna be a pretty not a great situation, but that's the whole point of it. If you're really committed and you really see how to be successful, it can be very lucrative. It can be very profitable. And we just have to get more people to understand the path there and be able and willing to like stay the course, you know?
And that path is so important because
Yeah,
that's where a lot of people make their mistake is they jump in and the first thing that they think they need to learn about and focus on is doing every training program offered by every supplier out there and learn about all the products and all the destinations. Well, first of all, you can never learn about all the products and all the destinations. When in reality, one of the first things that you need to focus on is creating the business itself and creating
mhm.
a brand. And you have a beautiful brand with Milk and Honey Travels,
Thank
and
you.
everything you do is very brand consistent. And when you make posts, everything that you put out there is very consistent with that brand. And so people learn that, they know that, they're comfortable with that, and people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And so it's not about posting on social media that you just completed some training course with some partner, that's not going to inspire people to give you a call and do business with you. Now, if you get recognized as the top producer for that company, that's a completely different scenario. So you have to start with figuring out the business, figuring out what kind of clients you want to work with, because that sets up your whole structure, what kind of fees you're going to charge, how you're going to market yourself. And there's a lot to consider. And people
Exactly.
really often don't think about it.
Yeah, yeah. I am thrilled that you mentioned how important branding is because I love to shout it from the rooftops. And in fact, we went through like a whole month of like diving deep into this within our advisor accelerator because it's such an important topic, but it is so easily overlooked or just not even maybe understood. Why is this so important? How is it going to set you up for success? And to your point is like when you say, oh, great, like I have completed, XYZ training, and that's what you're communicating to people, you're not telling them the way you bring them value. You're not telling them how you help them. And all of those things that people care about and why people choose to work with you or not are the things that are actually going to grow your business. And so, do you kind of find that same kind of like tension, I guess, with newer advisors of trying to make them understand like, hey, a well-defined brand is going to make such a difference, and how do you help them start to develop that and really be able to hone in on what their brand is and how they can successfully put that out into the world?
Yes, we do. Well, we have a travel MBA program. So if people are new to the industry, they're not already established advisor with a really solid book of business, they go through that program. And that's one of the key points is the branding exercises. And so we do work with them on helping to figure out what kind of market that they think they want to pursue, getting clear on a message, and so they can start putting together their branding. And one of our co-founders, Meredith Calloway, previously Meredith Hill, works with them on creating message and making sure that they're clear on it, because it's important to be able to articulate your value, as you said, in a way that's going to resonate with your audience. So if you're want to focus on family travel, you're probably statistically most likely to be working with very busy moms. And so if you're focused on helping them save them time, save them effort so that they can actually enjoy the vacation that everybody's going on. That's a message that will resonate with that audience. If you're focused
Mhm.
on a different audience, then the message needs to be different. So it's so important to take time. And a lot of times people think, oh yeah, I'll get to that when I have time. And it's a core foundation of your business. It's like opening a restaurant and deciding later what kind of cuisine you're going to have, and you're just going to do
Right.
anything whatever anybody asks for to begin with. It's not a way to develop expertise, and expertise leads to referrals, and referrals lead to profitability.
Absolutely. Which sidebar, this is why I have such a problem with restaurants like the Cheesecake Factory, because I feel overwhelmed looking at that menu and I'm like, what are you good at? Like you have everything from Mexican to Italian to American to Chinese. And I don't know, I want to order what you're good at, but I can't tell because I have a whole like encyclopedia of things that you can cook back there, which tells me you're probably not that great at any of it. I mean, I do love that those bread rolls that they bring out to you at the beginning, but besides that, like restaurants like that frustrate me because I'm just like, no, I want you to be good at one thing and not give me an encyclopedia of things you can do for me. Same with travel, right? It's just like, yeah, you might be able to book this, whatever kind of trip, but if that's not what you're passionate about and what you know about and what you do and who you serve, it really isn't going to kind of like hit the nail on the head and resonate. And really, your ideal client is not going to see the value because you're just trying to like throw a big blanket that covers as much as possible. And that is, kind of where I think a lot of people get lost.
I agree completely. And one of the things that's really important for newer advisors to recognize, especially newer advisors, is that you mentioned this earlier about how long it takes to start making money. It's just a dynamic of the way the industry works that you don't usually get paid commission until the travel happens. Well, that can be a few months from now, or it could be a year from now. So fees are going to be really important to your cash flow. And
Mm-hmm.
so somebody's not going to pay you a professional consulting fee if they don't understand what your value is.
Mm-hmm.
If all they get from the conversation they initially have with you is, I'll make the booking, then there's no value there. And
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to understand why they should pay you a fee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And fees are so important. Something that I think that like you need and should start with day one because it's far easier to just kind of start on the path and then raise your fees as you go, as you develop your expertise, et cetera, then come in and being like, yes, if there's a trip, I'll book it, I'll do it for free, thank you so much, and ask for nothing, and then have to come back and be like, oh, but now like the game has changed. And that's a far harder switch in my opinion. And also like no matter what, as new as you are or whatever, you can still find ways to bring value and focus on that and charge appropriately for that because you do bring value. And if you need help communicating that, then spend your time doing that versus, trying to get yourself an extra certification or something like
I,
that.
I agree. And, I agree completely about charging fees from day one. And even if you aren't convinced yet of the value that you bring, you probably, hopefully, have not decided to just go out and do this completely on your own and aren't affiliated with anybody.
Right.
So I think being affiliated with a host agency is incredibly important because it will give you access to things that you probably can't get on your own. And so you probably will have access to hotel elite programs or other programs with different partners that you could never get on your own, and the advisor is offering that to the client. The client can't get it on their own either, and you can't VIP yourself. So even from that standpoint, from day one, you're offering value because you're offering
Exactly.
something that the client can't get on their own, and you get by way of the agency that you are affiliated with.
Exactly. Yes. And there's so much good that comes from having like the strong relationships, whether that is from your host agency or consortia or what have you, because it's like there and still to this day, like I'm 9 years in and I still find so much value in like the people that I know. So it's like,
Mhm.
yes, all of the expertise that I have, all of the things that I have learned, but more so, all of the connections that I have, all of the people I can ask, all of the people that they know. It's just like the relationship part of this, what happens on the back end and behind the scenes that allows our clients to get the best of the best of the best advice, like connections, etc., is what they get by coming to us. And you can't have that if you are kind of just, doing your own thing, deciding like, hey, when somebody comes to me, of course I can go online and book that hotel and get my 10% commission. That's fine. But then the client, have lost out on all the value that would come from everything else that you could have access to and provide for them.
That's exactly right. And that's why it's so important when you're getting started to figure out a host agency that is a fit with what it is that you want to do. And there's lots
Mm-hmm.
of them out there, and you can go to hostagencyreviews.com and see all the different options there are to choose from. But there's not, I mean, Gifted Travel Network's not for everybody. No host agency is for everybody. And you've got to figure out what you want to do. If you really want to specialize in luxury, or do they have those hotel elite programs? Are they in all of the right clubs and have all the right access? Are they part of the right consortia? And if you want to focus on cruise, or if you want to focus on something different, you just really have to make sure that there's a fit there from the travel standpoint. You also need to make sure there's a fit there from the kind of community that you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for. I mean, you
Yeah.
mentioned how important those connections are that you have, and that is absolutely so critical to success in, I think, in any industry, but more in the travel industry than any other industry I can imagine, because you cannot possibly know everything. And so you're going to want to have people that you can reach out to, that you can share knowledge with, and you'll share your knowledge with them. They'll share it with you, and you support one another as you grow.
Exactly. Exactly. And even like you said, like as you grow, it still stays important. I know we're talking a lot about newer advisors, but even when you've been in the game a long time, it doesn't become unnecessary, right? Like the idea of having a strong brand, the idea of learning effective marketing strategies. I always say, unless you're at the point in business where you're just like, I have 100% ideal clients and I absolutely could never figure out a way to handle one more, like then maybe take a break from all of this. But until you get there, and I'm not there, then all of this still applies. And so kind of figuring out a way like, hey, you might have, got your business off the ground and gotten the ball rolling and have a good repeat referral business. But then like is your marketing strategies really attracting those ideal clients that you truly know you love to work with? Because you get a certain like distance in your business and like, yeah, you start to figure out, here is where I shine, here is where I provide the most value, here is where when I get that request I light up because I just know it's such a perfect fit. And I always find that at that point, your marketing becomes so critical because it's like, what are you doing on your end to A, get in front of those people, and then B, the messaging that is being put out is going to actually speak to them specifically. And that does take a little bit of time to know what that messaging should be and to know like what you're looking for, all of that kind of stuff. But it still is such a critical part and kind of like differentiating and scaling our businesses so that we're just not stuck taking that like it's a trip, I'll take it, type of
Right.
mentality.
Yeah, and I agree with you so much about the message. It has to evolve over time, because you will evolve as an advisor over time. So what you
Yeah.
want to focus on will just become a little bit different, and maybe your focus just gets a little tighter, or maybe it expands, but your message has to expand with that. And you're right about experienced advisors. I think a lot of times, well, I know back in when I started in this industry 20 years ago, sort of the ultimate goal was to get your own IATA number.
Mm-hmm.
You would get to a point where you could get your own IATA number and you could be completely on your own. And I think that that is the wrong goal, because getting your own IATA number comes with a whole lot of headaches, because now all the things that the agency you used to be affiliated with did for you, from commission processing to being in all these different hotel elite programs and different programs with cruise lines and having higher commission levels is gone, and you have to do all that yourself. And the likelihood that you're going to be able to reach those top commission levels just based purely on your own sales is pretty small, unless you just have a very, very specific niche and you just sell 2 or 3 providers and you're at a top commission level with all of them. You don't book hotels, so none of that other stuff matters. I think for the majority of people, having some sort of a relationship like that is for the life of your business, not for the beginning, just the
Mhm.
beginning of your business. It's a lot
Mhm.
like real estate. You can go get your real estate license and you can go completely out on your own and just do your own thing, or you can be part of a bigger organization because you get a lot more benefits for that. And I know with us, with our top producers club, one of the things, these are all, multi-million dollar producers, they love the coaching and mentoring that they get both with one another through the mastermind meetings that we hold, but also through the monthly coaching calls and the one-on-one coaching that they get, because it really helps them look at their business strategically. And if you're just out there on your own as a completely solo entrepreneur, then you're going to have to find a way to replace that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's something to be said with there's the value that you might get from, having your own IATA, not having a commission split or a fee, whatever. But then there's also, what you take on because you don't have that back end support, which is time and money in and of itself to now do it yourself, right? So there's the probably less commission splits, which or commission available, but then there's also like the time, energy, effort, expertise that comes doing all of the tasks that would previously have been done for you.
Right?
And then now are no longer. And so, yeah, it's definitely, looking at your career and your longevity and your success and where you're going takes a lot of just knowledge, but also kind of like insight into like the big picture and the full picture, like taking into consideration all of these things, understanding kind of like where your community is going to come from, who you're going to bounce ideas off of, who's going to give you kind of like, oh, well, I tried this and this is how it worked for me. So now, like, if you're in this situation, i.e., you can do the same thing because I was successful, or don't do that. That didn't work. Try
Learn from
something
a
else.
mistake.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's like the benefit of like being surrounded by people who are doing similar things to you, who might be a little bit further ahead than you are, but like just being in the room is so beneficial and so successful. So I have found that like to be an incredibly like almost like intangible, I guess I would say,
Hmm.
an intangible of what I would attribute to my success is just like the rooms that I'm in, the people that I can speak to, the kind of questions I can ask. This is what helps me can continue to grow.
Exactly. And you need to be in multiple rooms. It's
Yeah.
good to be in a room where maybe you're one of the smarter people in the room, more successful people in the room, and you're helping pull people up and you're helping share your expertise. But you also need to be in rooms where you are and surrounded by people who challenge you and who you are inspired by what they're doing and what they're achieving, and maybe they're further along the path than you, or maybe they're in a completely different direction, but you get inspired by the things that they're doing, get ideas from them, and it will make you a stronger entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, a travel advisor, unless you're working for brick and mortar agency and you're getting a paycheck from them every week, you are an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And you have to think like an entrepreneur if you want your business to be successful. And being surrounded by other entrepreneurs is one of the best ways to improve your success rate.
Yes, 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 yes. And that entrepreneurial like mindset approach, whatever you call it, is critical. It's critical. I want to just knock people over the head with that idea all of the time, because it's like if you don't see yourself like that, you're selling yourself short, but you're selling your ability to see success in this industry short, because it's not just about, like you said, unless you are an employee working in brick and mortar, it's not just the, transactional part of the business. Like, yes, that has to be done, but the other parts of it are the parts that are so entrepreneurial focused, and you have to have that approach to it in order to kind of see success. So that is like understanding your brand, understanding your marketing strategies, understanding your ideal client, understanding your numbers. All of those things kind of go into kind of like how you need to approach this so that it doesn't stay a hobby or ever become a hobby. It really truly is like, hey, this is what I'm doing and this is what I want to see grow and scale, and it's on me to do all the work to make that happen and to see that success.
Exactly true. And the reality for a lot of people is they think I'll just start out as a, in the hobby, and then if I make enough money,
Hmm.
then I'll treat it like an entrepreneurial venture and or a small business. And if you don't treat it that way from the beginning, it won't become
It won't
that.
get there. It will not get there.
Because
And
you have the
so,
wrong mindset. You're going
yes.
into it saying, I really don't think this is going to work. So if you don't believe it's going to work, then you're probably right.
Right. Exactly. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's your behavior is going to model what you already believe. And so I always think that like what you believe, that determines your behavior. And so if you believe, hey, this is going to be a success, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to have this successful career, then the behavior that matches that will align you in that direction, and you're going to see success. Like, now how fast that comes and what way that comes, number one, it's all going to be, like, we all get to determine what success means for us, which is the beautiful thing. It doesn't have to mean the same for all of us, and it really
Right.
shouldn't, because we all have our own priorities. But once you have defined that, your actions and your behavior should align with you getting there, and that's what's gonna make the difference. It doesn't happen outside of that. It doesn't happen without that. Like, you're just gonna trend towards what you believe is possible, basically. And nobody nobody's going to probably find their way to like this multi-million-dollar successful travel business by just like, let's see where this goes, maybe I'll give it
I'll
a
just,
try in my
I'll,
off time.
yeah, I'll just do it, when I have time for it. And
Yeah.
I always say that it's not something you can pick up and put down like knitting.
Yeah.
That, oh, well, I've got a little time now, I'll do this. It just doesn't work that way if you want to be successful long
Yeah.
term. And the reality is there's no such thing as an overnight success. You're not going to
Yes.
start this and then in be making money hand over fist right away. And the other reality is that it does not have to take years and years and years to be making money either. I mean,
Mhm.
there are people that have gone through our travel MBA program that by the end of their first year, they have $1 million in sales.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's all about a lot of different marketing factors. For some people, it's easier because they have the right network and they know the right people who are traveling the way they doing the type of travel that they want to specialize in. For other people, it's a little harder because maybe they don't have that natural built-in community. But as you well know from your social media success, there are lots of ways to get your name out there, whether it's social media or other types of marketing. But if you don't put on your entrepreneur's hat and work on your business and think about these things, they're just not going to happen.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. And I think that, like, I mean, I wish I had come into this industry with like a beautiful, like, high net worth network around me of all the people I could just be like, hey, this is what I'm doing now. Contact me for your trip. I did not have that, unfortunately. But so it was a little bit more of an uphill climb, I guess you could say, but it's possible. Like, literally, it takes the creativity of understanding kind of like both who you are, but what your ideal client like requires. Like, you have to go where they're at, I always say. But also, yeah, just like being intentional about your actions and being intentional about like, this is what I'm doing to build this. This is not just kind of like, we'll just sit back and hope that for the best, hope for the phone to ring, so to speak. It really is the intentionality that comes with like, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it to see the success, to see the clients start to come in, to see people start to like really talk about your business in the way that you want them to? What does that require on your end to make that happen? Is there any type of like effective marketing strategies that you share within your community, within your groups, that like people really understand and gravitate towards?
There's a number of different things that people do and of course, as we talked about earlier, the first thing is you've got to have a really clear brand, and you've got to figure out who your ideal client is and then get in front of them. One of the things a lot of our advisors have done that has worked really well is they do sometimes in partnership with like different neighborhoods or different organizations, they do events where they maybe talk about a different travel topic each time. So we have several folks that do that in conjunction with at Total Wine locations. So they
Mm.
do wine tasting and talk about where you can travel for specifically to try different wines, or in partnership with restaurants and do it in the restaurant. So I think events are a really great way to demonstrate your expertise as a subject
Mhm.
matter expert, which is important
Mhm.
to develop. And the other thing that really works well is email marketing.
Mm.
And it's not about going out and buying a list. You have to develop the list. And so that can be a bit of a challenge for people because some people already have to use an old term, Rolodex of people who are the perfect ideal client, but other people don't. So you have to work a little harder to get those people, but building those connections through email, which you can start on social media to build your email list. All those things work and work really well, and just putting out consistent content that gets
Yeah.
people's attention, that targets the type of traveler that you're looking for, and
Yes.
sharing a message that demonstrates not deals. Please, please, please don't
Please
go
do
out and
not.
market deals. Please don't market discounts. Please don't market sales. And generally don't market partners for most of your marketing.
Yeah.
Market yourself and your
Yeah.
business and what it is that you have to offer to people and how you make a difference,
Yeah.
because that's what people are interested in. The great news is there are more people looking for travel advisors today than there have been in more than 20 years. So we're part of Virtuoso, and Virtuoso on their website, they have thousands of people, tens of thousands of people every month who go and access the part of their website where they can find a travel advisor. So there is an abundance of need out there for
Mhm.
people looking for travel advisors, but what they want is somebody who is going to really speak to them in a way that they know this person is going to help me craft the type of trip that I am most interested in and save me lots of time and get me the most value for for my vacation budget.
Exactly. Exactly. I couldn't agree more. So I think probably for me, the last thing I really want to talk to you about, because I think it's the biggest thing to kind of hone in on, be aware of, make like space for, is the difference between treating this as a hobby and a true like career path, and being an entrepreneur, is how well we know our numbers. And I find that so many people want to stick their head in the sand when it comes to like looking at this data, understanding the data, understand what they should be tracking, understand what it means, understand how to set goals based on the numbers, how to, all those things. I feel like it is, like I said, not always what we have known in the past in previous careers or had to pay attention to because we were working for someone else and the books were somebody else's problem. But as our own business, as we own our own businesses and as we run them successfully, this is now our job. This is now our responsibility to focus on these, know these, understand what will impact them, and plan our business strategy accordingly. So what can you kind of share with us in terms of this type of talk? Because I feel like it's so important, even though some people are like, no, 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 no. Yeah, pay attention, because I feel like there's nothing that's more important than this.
agree with you wholeheartedly. And look, nobody gets into the travel industry saying, maybe there'll be a great opportunity for me to crunch numbers and use spreadsheets.
Right.
I mean, nobody gets into the travel industry for that. I mean, come on. But you're right. It absolutely is important. And it's important for you to know your numbers and to be aware of a few different things. Obviously, at a very basic level, you need to know how much money you're making and what your expenses are. And you probably have, at some point, you will have an assistant or a bookkeeper or somebody who can handle a lot of the details of that for you. But from a management level, what you need to know is, where is your money coming from? What
Mhm.
percentage of your total revenue is coming from fees? What percentage of your revenue is coming from commissions? And then taking a deeper dive into commissions, I think it's really important to look at the partners that you're working with and see what your yield is. So just because a partner may pay you 10 or 12 or 15 or 18% commission does not necessarily mean that's how much you're actually going to end up with, because we all know there's things in there that they don't pay commission on. So if you calculate take the amount that you actually got paid, divide it by the amount of the trip, then you'll end up with a yield number, which is always lower than a commission number. And so knowing that can help you make decisions. And maybe you take a look, and we see this a lot with people who have been selling more mass market products. Their yield may be 8 or 9%,
Mhm.
whereas somebody who is selling luxury products, their yield may be closer to 13%. And, being in that 12, 13, 14% is where you really want to be. You definitely don't want to dip down into single numbers. So it's important to occasionally take a look at that, because it may be that you could provide your client the same exact experience. You're just using someone else to book it. So it may be that
Mhm.
you change wholesalers, or you work with a, you may even need to focus more. If it's cruise, you may want to focus more on one cruise over another cruise. But the other thing, looking at your bookings, is your average transaction size. That is one of the easiest ways to improve your revenue, is by increasing your average transaction size. And for some advisors now, they're so busy, what they've actually done is they've looked at that average transaction size and they've said, this is now my minimum.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to take trips from clients unless their budget is at least whatever. And that's an important number for you to know, even if you don't make the decision on setting a minimum amount for a client's trip. And the other number that's really important for you to focus on um, as an advisor is the amount of money that you're putting into marketing, and what kind of return on investment you're getting. Because there's a lot of people who pour a lot of money into social media, paid social media campaigns or paid SEO campaigns, that really are not getting the bang for their buck that they should be, and
Yeah.
they could divert that money into something else.
Yeah, I like that. I'm geeking out over that kind of stuff, especially in this last year of really trying to make a concerted effort to be able to ROI pretty much everything I do. So whether
Mhm.
that's saying yes to a fam trip, whether that's hiring, whether that's a marketing initiative, all of these things, like, because it gets to the point, like, yes, I do have the money, but that's not the point. The point is if the money is making me money. And so if I'm just spending it and not getting anything back, or what I could get back would be far more if it was diverted this way versus this way. Those are things that, like, as you get further on in your career, you have to pay such close attention to, because it's easy to just be like, let's see what happens, and then
Right.
never even measure what happens. Like, we're not measuring the success of these things. And so it's just kind of like, yes, somebody could write your newsletter. Is your newsletter bringing in any business? Is it furthering your marketing efforts? Is it actually providing a return on investment? Or are you just paying X amount of dollars to somebody every month, just and there's nothing to show for it, so to speak. So there's so many things I think that we spend expense wise in our business that, like, yes, they are business expenses, but the necessity of them and the success of them really is on us to kind of figure out and to know what that ROI is. Otherwise, it can just easily become something that we're wasting money on, so to speak.
Yeah, and that return on investment or ROI is important for not just things you spend money on, because you do need to know what that is. Although sometimes you're spending money on things that are just a long-term awareness campaign.
Right.
It's not a I'll put this out there, and if I don't get 3 bookings, it's not worth it. But you also, as you said earlier, you need to spend ROI on your time,
Mhm.
because I see so many travel advisors going on fam trips that have nothing to do with what they
They
are
sell.
interested
Yeah.
in. And s- first of all, that's a waste of your time.
Yes.
Second of all, the partner is hosting you on that fam trip with an expectation that you will sell their product.
Right.
And I've heard so many advisors say, I'll never sell this, but I'm going to go. Then if you know you're not going to sell it, please don't go. That's just rude. It's
Yeah.
disrespectful to the partners. You have to be careful about your time, because yes, you can travel the world and be gone every week of the year and do your business from wherever. But we all know that you are not as productive when you're off
No.
traveling, because you're doing site inspections, and site inspections are a lot of work, and you have to take a lot of time. And in that case, you can't be working on crafting trips for clients. So it's
Exactly.
ROI of time, it's ROI of money. And we talk a lot in about taking off your travel advisor hat and putting on your travel owner hat, your
Hmm.
travel agency owner hat, and taking a look at your business. And we don't want to suck all the fun out of it and say you need to be crunching numbers 90% of the time,
Hmm.
because who
Right.
wants to do that? Thank God there are people who want to do that in the world, but I am not one of them.
Right. Right. Yeah. I am not either, but I do know, like, there's a time and a place and an importance to focusing on that part of our business as well. So thank you so much for just sharing kind of like your knowledge and your insight and your approach to kind of how you help coach and lead advisors into really treating this as the business that it is, and to taking that entrepreneurial approach so that they can see success as well. I have enjoyed this conversation and I really appreciate you taking the time to have it with me.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. I've loved it. I love this industry, and I see there's so much opportunity, and I really hope people will embrace the entrepreneurial side of it and really enjoy the journey.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. You have a wonderful day, and we hope to have you back on the podcast sometime again soon.